Hi everyone, Mrs. Hooper here, and today we are going to look at an introduction to cells. So, make sure you have your notes out, eliminate any distractions, and let's get started. By the end of this video, you're going to be able to name the smallest unit of living things. You're going to be able to be familiar with the term unicellular and multicellular, and you'll also be able to distinguish between non-living and living things. The first fact that we're going to look at is that cells are the smallest unit of life. So anything that's living contains at least one or more cells. Now cells are really tiny, so you have to be able to observe them through a microscope. Now, when you look through a microscope, you're going to make some observations. One observation you might make are cells even present? And if cells are present, am I looking at one cell or am I looking at many cells? Now, the scientist that's known for the discovery of cells was a scientist by the name of Robert Hooke. He looked at a piece of cork underneath a microscope, and what he saw, he described it as small, tiny rooms or cells. So in his description of what he observed, he referred to it as cells, and that's what we named what he discovered was cells. Now we're going to look at two different terms. We're going to look at unicellular and multicellular. Unicellular refers to one cell. So if you were to break down that word, the prefix uni means one, and cellular refers to cells, so unicellular is one cell. Now, one-celled organisms are simple organisms. Examples of such organisms would be bacteria, amoebas, euglenas, which is a type of pond organism. These are all unicellular organisms. Now, multicellular organisms have different types of cells within them, and usually they're very structured cells that have a specific role in that organism's body. So, multicellular organisms are more complex. Not only are cells the smallest unit of life, but cells are also the basic structural and functional unit of life. So, think back on the multicellular organisms. They have lots of specialized cells that work together to help the organism to survive or to function well. If you were to look at the human body, our cells work together to form tissue. So that's why they're a building block. Now, functional means that each cell is able to survive on its own. It doesn't require other cells to help it survive. Each individual cell is complete in and of itself. Now, cells do reproduce and die and things like that, but just remember that every cell has everything that it needs in order to survive. The final thing that we're going to look at is the difference between living things and non-living things. So it's really simple. Living things will have cells, non-living things do not have cells. Now, living things could either be alive or dead. That just describes the status of that living thing. So if you were to look at something that was living, you would see cells. If you were to look at something that was once alive, you would still see cells. So take a branch, for instance. If the branch is connected to the tree, it's obviously living, and you could see the cells within the bark. If a branch were to break off, it's now a stick on the ground. It's no longer alive, but if you were to take that stick and put it under a microscope, you'd still be able to see the cells that were in it because it was once living. Here are two examples of living versus non-living. So in one slide, on one side of this slide, you see a picture of a leaf, and you can see the cells. And then over here, this is a picture of sand magnified under a microscope, and you do not see any cells because rock, sand, non-living. So remember, not all things are living, but when they are, they have cells. In this video, we covered that cells are the smallest structural and functional unit of life. Single-celled organisms are called unicellular. Organisms that have many cells are multicellular. And we learned the difference between living things and non-living things. Living things have cells, non-living things do not. Now it's your turn. Make sure that you complete the notes or the activity that go along with this video. And to end, I always like to end on a positive note. So smile today and remember, have a curious mind and a kind heart. You are loved. Have a great day.